is a network. And that network allows money to be moved anywhere in the entire world, much faster, much cheaper, and with very low settlement risk between intermediaries. The early creators of Bitcoin realized very early, right, there was massive inefficiencies with how Bitcoin operated. You have mining, it uses a ton of electricity, the transactions are slow, they're expensive, and there's huge scaling issues. I think if every single person in the world was to start using Bitcoin today and no improvements to the protocol, you would get like 2 transactions each for the rest of your
Well,
life.
to be
So,
fair, Bitcoin is more a digital capital than digital transaction and currency, correct? Like it's not a great
but the
currency.
white paper was a peer to peer digital currency, right? So
That's
it's
true.
formed into something else. But the original goal of Bitcoin, as dictated by the white paper, is not what people look at it as today, correct?
No, 100%. That's fair. Like if you read the
Like the
white paper,
Bitcoin white
the
paper
whole
was a
idea with
peer
the
to
Bitcoin white paper was a trustless, immutable transaction, and
yeah,
I get that. It's just I don't think anybody looks at Bitcoin as a way to
because it can't do
transact.
that. Because it can't do that. It's simply the network was not designed well enough to be able to handle that. And
But
in
there
the
are
early days,
others,
absolutely.
Solana and others allow you to do that. No,
Yeah, so Solana can. Solana has its advantages in terms of that, but here's more of the thesis behind XRP that's important. Ripple, the company who was very involved in XRP from the start, a lot of the founders who were creating Bitcoin realized very soon after, hey, this thing is awesome. It has all these technological advantages that completely change the way money can move over the internet. Why don't we create something that's more scalable, that's faster and more efficient, and then be able to then create a company, Ripple, work with institutions to create centralized software that these institutions can operate from without needing to be blockchain native, without needing to be blockchain experts, and say, hey, can we just build you a very simple user interface API where then you can log in Venmo like for banks, Venmo like for institutions, where you log in and can move money from institution to institution, but rather than relying on the banking network to be interconnecting all these different financial institutions, what if we just replace that entire network of Nostro Vostro accounts going from bank to bank to bank, cross currency transactions with just moving XRP? So, what Ripple does is they abstract away all of these other blockchain specifics from the institutions and just say, hey, you don't worry about how the money's moving. We'll settle the transaction in less than 3 seconds and make the money move from point A to point B almost instantaneously. And
sorry.
that's
One
been their
question I
goal from
have
the
is,
start.
but aren't there a ton of other protocols that do similar things? Is it just like super low gas fees? Is it speed? Like, what makes Ripple better than some of the other protocols that are already out there?
Because it's all network effects. So no other protocol is remotely close to how embedded Ripple already is with the traditional financial system. Ripple is already launching, and this is a highly contested thing for some people. People really don't like it, but Ripple's already working with multiple central banks on CBDCs. I think the last time I checked, they were in talks with close to
Hold on,
38
Mickle, isn't
central
that a
banks.
bad thing?
It depends on what your view is. My view personally is that we already are pretty much living in a CBDC environment. And there's a difference between wholesale and retail CBDC. So a lot of what they're doing is wholesale CBDC. Hey, can we just tokenize the currency and make it so it can move faster and more seamlessly between different central banks and between different regional banks? And that's what Ripple is doing with Japan, with SBI. That's what they're doing with a lot of different banking institutions all over the world. They have 2 products. One is just a Swift like product in which they already have over 500 different organizations, banking institutions using their messaging Swift like product. They also have a very large amount of those clients doing close to $5 billion a quarter in payments directly using the underlying asset XRP because it's faster and more efficient. So the thesis here is that if Ripple can continue to get their tentacles into all these different banking institutions because of their messaging software and because of their access to cheap, fast, instantaneous liquidity using XRP, you suddenly have a brand new way for these institutions to interconnect with each other and send payments faster.
So
Technically,
how
you
does
could
that
do this with
increase?
any protocol
Yeah, but how does that increase the value of the protocol itself? Like, are again
because
gas fees or like what
no,
is the?
because the XRP sits in the middle of every transaction. So if you were to go from US dollar to say Chinese yuan, you would need XRP as the liquidity in the middle. So XRP is always that decentralized neutral liquidity that essentially provides essentially the network the oil or the grease to
So
make
let's say,
everything
I'm
work.
sorry, I'm just trying to kind of think more. Very, I want to understand the value chain a little bit. Okay, so I'm a bank in the United States, and I want
Yes.
to send money to a bank in Japan. I can
Yes.
use the TradFi approaches and pay a lot of money. It takes forever. It needs to be I send the money to a central money processing, like the wire transaction company. They then essentially uh, they don't actually send the money. They just what do you call it? Reconcile the transaction with their counterpart in the other country, and then that counterpart then gives the money to the other bank.
And
Uh,
you typically also have to have money locked up on the other side of it. And that's where the nostro vostro, like, so Apple, right? They have to have money sitting in all these different institutions all over the world to facilitate these payments because they need to have capital on both sides. So it's
exactly.
very capital inefficient to be funding all of these different corridors all over the world. The
So
difference between if
yeah,
you were to
walk
put a
me through.
digital asset
Yeah,
in the,
walk me
go
through
ahead.
XRP though, because wouldn't the same exact thing, like, so I would have, I'm a US bank, I don't have any money in crypto, it's fiat. So is the underlying assumption that they're holding the money in Tether or in like, or not in Tether,
Nope.
in USDT?
Nope. You could go simply from a fiat currency. What Ripple would do is they would take the fiat currency, transfer that to XRP, instantaneously zap that over to one of their settlement partners on the other side, and then liquidate that for the local currency. So you don't ever need someone pre-funding on the other side because you just go from the local
Hmm.
currency in one jurisdiction to XRP and then transfer that to the local currency on the other side of that equation.
Hmm.
So what that does is it makes it so rather than having to go through all the complexities and all these different middlemen taking fees along the way, doing all these FX transfers and pre-funding on both sides of the equation where suddenly you have capital locked up, you just use a decentralized neutral currency in the middle as the liquidity to go from one currency to another. And what we're seeing right now is this product is growing exponentially because especially for money transmitters, right, that aren't that worried about a lot of the let's say very strict regulations of typical banking institutions in the United States, it's drastically more efficient than anything else they have access to. Now, one of the theories is for people specifically invested into XRP is, hey, what happens when you start to get clear regulations that allows more banking institutions to step into this? We already have large banks overseas, specifically in Japan and the Philippines, really already utilizing some of these solutions. And I think people in the XRP community are starting to say, hey, we don't need this to replace every single transaction on Earth. But if this is really is a faster, more efficient way to move capital, which you hear all the partners attest to it being, then it doesn't it makes logical sense to think that this product is going to continue to grow. And for the first time ever, you are going to have a real world use case, something where cryptocurrency, the underlying network, is actually doing something useful and efficient. And I think we believe that that will ultimately drive a lot of capital to be invested into the underlying digital asset XRP.
What? So explain that second part. The first. So okay. So let me say, I actually understand the premise now. It's helpful. Mickle, I will still have lots of questions about competitive differentiation. Right? There's a lot of copycat. I'm assuming there's a lot of copycats to this protocol. I mean,
Absolutely,
there's
absolute,
nothing proprietary
absolutely.
about this protocol, correct? It's the network effects, like you said.
There's nothing proprietary, but I think if you were to look at the teams behind every single cryptocurrency project and then look at the team behind who's on Ripple's board of directors, who Ripple is already meeting with, who Ripple already has partnerships with, you would start to very clearly
Is
see that a lot of the cryptocurrency industry is really focused on these retail degen kind of products. And Ripple is one of the few companies in all of crypto saying, hey, let's build products for financial institutions to be able to utilize these networks in a way that is a lot more buttoned up than anything we've really seen in crypto.
and it would then so okay. So I understand. I'm gonna say it back again. I've not verified anybody that's listening. I'm not verifying anything Mickle's saying, but Mickle, I've known Mickle for a while, so I know that he is incredibly reliable. I was gonna say,
And Donish,
yeah,
just so you know, obviously the product and how it operates is vastly more complex than the high level overview I'm giving you on this quick
yeah,
space.
absolutely, absolutely, I get it.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So I am cutting out a lot of small intricacies in how the product operates just to get us from point A to point B and get the general understanding of why this would be valuable.
So I'm gonna repeat it back to you because again, I I'm still learning a lot. So it's like it's still early days for me. As I mentioned, my descent into crypto degeneracy is still in its infancy. But I was gonna say it's only been like a year and a half that I've even been investing into crypto in general, and then I went all in on Bitcoin, which is a fascinating thing to do. I was gonna say the um, the point that you're making about XRP is the network effects are coming from the fact that there is a large user base, but more importantly, there are actual banking institutions today that are currently working on embedding XRP protocols into their existing workflows. And that once that's done, they're not going to switch off and use other protocols, which makes sense. So there's a lock in there. Um, XRP has been built specifically for this purpose, and the team at Ripple is focused on the enterprise use cases, not just peer to peer, but specifically on the enterprise use cases of this, um, um, which is an interesting point.
They actually don't have any peer to peer or retail products. They are absolutely all
Oh,
enterprise.
that's
And
fucking
just to give
awesome.
you an idea, they actually just went live with Qatar National Bank. That's a big one that just went live. They've been live with SBI for a very long time. They have a very large network of financial institutions who they've been working with. And even like one of the partnerships that almost no one talks about because a lot of the United States business was put on a halt when the SEC actually came down and sued Ripple, a case that the SEC really lost in a very large fashion, was a Bank of America partnership where Bank of America specifically was using Ripple's centralized software for messaging. Now, people in the XRP community, like I said, are making the conclusion or the investment thesis that once a large amount of banks are using Ripple software for messaging, it's very logical to conclude that they can very easily see the massive efficiencies of rather than taking 3 to 4 days and more fees to move a payment to be able to flip a switch, use XRP, and make these things happen in real time. So the network effect is originally with Ripple software, but then being able to get crypto liquidity from XRP itself is kind of that holy grail.
Hmm, interesting.
And it come
Chris,
and what Ripple's doing is actually a lot deeper too. So Ripple recently bought one of the largest institutional custodians on the market. It's a company called Medico. Medico has deep, deep relations with some of the largest banking institutions in the world. HSBC, just as one of them, and I could pull up a list, but pretty much almost every major bank who's had any kind of tokenization effort going on had been using Medico. Ripple bought that solution about a year and a half ago. So now Ripple is also doing custody for these large banks. Not only are they custodying their digital assets, they also have their cross border payments product to be able to then use XRP as the liquidity to actually start moving assets around. I think
hmm,
a lot of us believe that most assets, like Larry Fink has said, will end up being tokenized. So Ripple is not only owning a lot of the infrastructure that's custodying the tokenization efforts, but they also then have direct links to the XRP ledger to actually start moving the value around. You can very easily start to see how the XRP ledger and XRP become this very unique, institutionally focused cryptocurrency with a US based like Ripple's a US company, the XRP ledger, for lack of a better term, is a US based protocol, which is obviously a massive advantage with I don't know, someone like Trump coming in and already talking about not having capital gains taxes on a US cryptocurrency. That's not part of the thesis, but there obviously is a very big push to be a US centric cryptocurrency region, or have America be US centric cryptocurrency. So I think all of these things are playing into the XRP thesis massively. And then one thing on the court case, because that's actually still ongoing, but the judge in the court case actually specifically came out and said that XRP itself is not a security. So XRP itself has a legal declaration by the courts that it's not a security. Now, there's some question about if Ripple's selling to a large institution with a structured contract, whether or not that can be a security. We're probably going to see this case wrapped up and resolved within the next 6 months. And from there, Ripple is going to have certain clarity on how to run their business in the United States and what partners they can work with. And if these networks effects are really as deep as many people see in the XRP community, and if Ripple's board of directors, who's loaded with former Federal Reserve Board members, former JP Morgan members, former HSBC members, if they can really get Ripple in the back rooms with all these massive banks, which Ripple kind of already is, then you can very easily see how if cryptocurrency utility really does play out,
But
Ripple is probably the winner.
Mickle, so I get it all. I understand. Actually, interestingly, I get the value proposition on Ripple, and I understand the protocol, which is XRP. I get all of that. I don't understand how increased utilization of XRP leads to increased value of the actual XRP coin of the token.
Okay. Yeah, so let me take that on real quick. First of all, XRP is a deflationary currency. It's very similar in terms of the investment thesis behind Bitcoin, right? It's just decentralized neutral currency that you can own. It's a hedge against inflation. All of those points you can make for XRP. Now, is Bitcoin more widely adopted in terms of retail, in terms of ownership distributed across a lot of people all over the world? Absolutely. But the same tokenomics and that same general hedge against inflation, you can make all those same points against for XRP. Now, the important thing for XRP that's very different is XRP is the liquidity of the network. Every single transaction ultimately flows through XRP. So if you're moving hundreds of billions of dollars across the XRP ledger, you need XRP liquidity or the value to start reflecting that monetary amount. So the more and more value that is flowing through the XRP ledger, the more XRP that gets locked up, and the more XRP's value needs to increase to be able to facilitate these large scale
Oh
transactions.
man, I don't understand that part. That's interesting. So I got to go to Chris because he has his hand up, but I have a follow up question. I don't get that last part, which is the more it's used, the more gets locked up, and therefore,
Well, well, let's put it this way. Let's put it this way, Donish. Say you chose the smallest cryptocurrency on the market, right? The smallest one. Say it has a
okay,
$100 market cap,
okay.
right? And you needed to move $100,000 on that network. What do you think would happen to the price of the token if you were essentially forced to buy $100,000 of the token to use as liquidity?
The
What
underlying
you're do
assumption there is that there's no increase in minting of that token.
there's no increase. XRP is a deflationary cryptocurrency. There's
So it's
never an
just
in,
like that you're making less and less over time.
you're
Is
not
that correct?
make no one's making anything. All the XRP has already been issued. Every XRP unit that will ever
Oh,
exist has already
interesting.
been issued. It's actually deflationary. So every XRP transaction, actually XRP is burned and deleted from the ecosystem forever.
Oh
So XRP
shit.
is
I
constantly
get it.
being burned and constantly being locked up.
Oh,
Because
I
not
get it
only
now.
that, but you also have to do things like open up a wallet that locks up 10 XRP. Every single time you set something called a trust line, you lock up 2 XRP. So it's actually a very deflationary asset. And
I
the
get what
more
you
the
mean by
asset is
deflationary
being
now.
used,
Yeah,
the more XRP's value then has to go up to reflect the increase in volume on the network.
got it. Holy shit, that's super interesting. I don't
And
know if
like I said,
yeah.
it's a very different, like, a lot of people, it's a very sensitive topic for some reason in the cryptocurrency community. I am a massive Bitcoiner. I love Bitcoin. There is nothing against me that dislikes Bitcoin at all. But when you look at the fundamental use case of the protocol, right? Why these protocols were created, They were made to move money. Bitcoin is absolutely a way to move money. But Bitcoin is really moved away from this moving money thesis. It's really being used as an investment vehicle. People want to buy Bitcoin, hedge against inflation, hedge against tyrannical governments, which is great. But the core thesis of XRP is if you have a financial institution like Ripple creating centralized software for financial institutions to be able to seamlessly interact with the XRP ledger and use the core utility of XRP to move money, is that valuable? And I would argue that the partners that Ripple is working with are enthusiastically saying it is extremely valuable. And looking at the growth of the
They've
solution
said
is
just the
growing
opposite,
massively.
actually. In sworn affidavits, they've said just the opposite.
Oh,
For example, the MoneyGram affidavit cited by the SEC, then I'm quoting, the technology has no viable use case. And they actually,
Joe,
there's two
Joe, then
affidavits
why is
that
it
were provided.
growing?
It's growing because it is a speculative instrument for people to
No,
bet
no,
on, which I don't.
Ripple's solution, Ripple's ODL
Yeah,
solution.
let's talk about adoption.
Why
Adoption of Ripple's X Current technology. It's called X Current.
it's
Has
not called X current. That's a very
it,
that's from 4 or 5 years ago.
X Current is the current thing that has been
X current is
adopted.
not a
guys, I
product.
love you both. I was just gonna say Chris needs to go. He's been waiting forever, and
Go ahead.
I just want to, Chris is like me. He's learning, I think, unless Chris, you know everything about XRP. But so I think we're just right now we're doing a fact finding mission. I am. This is like as I mentioned earlier, Joe. You may have missed it. This is like my descent into crypto degeneracy. It has occurred. I
Well, good to start with XRP because that's probably the most degen thing you could buy. So
It's funny that you say it's the most degen, but when you look at who is working on Ripple, it is the least degen board of directors, the least degen people in all of crypto. Like it's not even
it's not what
close.
we found out in the litigation. I mean,
Joe,
actually
but to
read
be
the judge's
fair,
opinion on
if
this.
I'm
I
hearing,
mean, like,
when you look from a startup perspective, when you're looking at startups, the startups that are doing enterprise sales tend to have longer sales cycles and they tend to have less churn. So there's real advantages of going after, of like betting on companies that are selling to enterprise. And if they truly do have deals, he was mentioning, again, I've not done the research, but I trust Mickle. And I was going to
I'm more
say,
than happy to provide it also. And you know
yeah,
that, Donish. I'm
yeah, I know,
pulling
I
up my
know.
and I'll
laptop right
provide.
now and I'll
You should
provide you a list.
you should start with the sworn affidavit from the MoneyGram CEO, which was cited by the SEC, saying the technology, and I quote, has no utility or value. And the token,
No,
excuse
but
me.
Joe,
Now, to be
why is
clear,
the Bank of
what
Qatar
what
using XRP right now?
yeah. So this is the big scam that I think people
Damn,
misinterpret. And when you yeah,
it's
let
such a
me just finish
crazy
1 second,
statement to
Michael. You
make.
can let me just finish
Be
1 second.
nice.
What the company itself, okay, Ripple, has real customers. They make real money, and they actually have some very good arrangements and people on boards of directors, and they do things that is distinct and apart from the antiquated XRP token, which does not actually provide any utility. There are numerous softwares and features for bank transfers that Ripple has done very well at and has been very successful in having market share. But this is the flaw that people come into these spaces and they talk about. They mistake the fact that a communications apparatus for moving money requires a token because it does not. There's no requirement for a token. This is why Bitcoin has correctly identified the real reason for existence of these things, which is store of value, and has
Bitcoin didn't
pivoted
identify
away from.
anything. It's what the
Hang on one
community did.
second. One
But
All
one
you
one
right.
second.
you
One
said
second.
so
One
much
second.
that is wrong in such a short amount of time. Here's
Okay. Well,
it's
you can
insane.
rebut all of it. You can rebut all of it. Just let me finish. I
It's
was trying to get two
absolutely
more sentences.
insane.
It's not absolutely insane. It's what the market is telling you. The market's telling you XRP has gone nowhere against
It's
Bitcoin for 7 years.
outperformed Bitcoin in
It's gone no.
2024, Joe. It's
Yeah, for
outperformed
7 years.
Bitcoin in
It's
2024.
no, hang on. It's flat against Bitcoin for 7 years, right? Like it's gone nowhere, absolutely nowhere.
It's
Market has Bitcoin has grown to a $2 trillion asset, and XRP has stayed roughly in the same
why is it
range.
outperforming it
So
in
Well, to be
2024?
fair,
because why have meme
no,
coins
no, no, no,
outperformed? That's a dumb argument.
I'm sorry,
That's a
Joe.
moronic argument because
Just to be completely fair, it is not surprising that the first major use case is digital capital, right? Because it's easier to imagine just do it. You don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to change systems. You don't have to convince enterprises. It's not surprising that the first major use case is store of value. It's what's expected in general from capital is usually the easiest thing to think of. To actually use it for transactions seems harder. It just
Let
seems harder.
I just need to make one point, and then Joe, go ahead. This idea
Actually, I
that the
want Chris to
product
go.
isn't
Chris has been
growing is
waiting
just
very patiently.
crazy.
Go ahead.
Is crazy. The product is growing hundreds of percent year over year. Ripple's payments using XRP. So this idea that there's no utility and no one's using it, it's like it's just completely made up. Like this idea that no one's using it, it has zero utility, it's just absolutely false. And every single fact we can look at
So
completely goes
I'm gonna
against
let
that.
Chris ask his question or make his comment, and then we'll go back to the back and forth because I don't want to get in the middle of that too much. Go ahead, Chris. Good afternoon.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, guys. I'm going to make a 15-second preamble of I am also similarly kind of I'm not as new as Donish in this. I also, full disclosure, I'm an investor in Donish's company. The reason I say that is when you think of investors, there's two ends of the spectrum. There is super quantitative and super qualitative. And I am on the super qualitative. I write first checks into founders. So there's no like spreadsheets and stuff in what I do. I'm evaluating people. So I'm experimenting and trying to learn here. And I am very long Bitcoin. I was long Ethereum. And just over the past like 2 weeks since Trump got in, I decided to fuck around a little bit with all these more, as they call, shit coins. And so I bought a bunch of Ripple and whatever, like a bunch of these little things, and they ripped. And so based on literally a space that you had yesterday, Simon, Donish, Simon spoke about Ripple. Do you remember that, Donish?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
so this actually was really important because I was trying to understand if what he was talking about was, or if the circulating supply was actually what he was talking about, and it is, and that seems like a pretty big problem. They only have 57% of their circulating supply right now. And when Simon was talking yesterday, he said he was like an early investor in the actual company, as like an angel or something, and it was like 40% before. So it certainly has gone up, but that's still an enormous amount, and that's going to be a downward pressure for I don't know how long. So I would love to hear like things that have like not their full circulating supply right now, like the company is sitting on it and is going to sell it to make more money. How big of a problem is that going to be for some of these, like these guys, Ripple, like
But Chris, why would
Lumens,
that
et
be
cetera?
a bad thing instead of a good thing? Isn't it a good thing that
That
like
seems like a
it's not?
terrible thing
Why
because
is that a
it's gonna
terrible
have
thing?
downward pressure. It's more supply coming
Can I
online.
can I
There's only a little bit of
can I
flow.
can I take that real quick?
It's why XRP is down 100% against Bitcoin over the last 4 years. 100%. That's a stat. Just go look at to it in XRP BTC. You've lost 100% of your value roughly against Bitcoin if you would have put in money in Bitcoin versus XRP.
Okay. I'm happy to take that question. So there's two very important sides to this. The way in which XRP has been distributed is completely different than how Bitcoin's distributed. You are absolutely right. Like Ripple does have a lot of XRP. I think they have about 38 billion of the 100 billion XRP. Now, the question is what is that XRP being used for? Now, one of those use cases for XRP right now is to facilitate the liquidity that me and Donish were talking about. So when Ripple onboards new partners and partners are using XRP, which for some reason that this whole thing, according to Joe, is not happening, but this product is growing hundreds of percent year over year. Ripple is using the XRP in the escrow to actually facilitate these payments. So Ripple, as one of the largest institutions working on the XRP ledger, when they onboard a bank like the Bank of Qatar, they are using that war chest of XRP to then facilitate payments for those institutions. Another thing that XRP is used for, it is directly now sold to some of these ETF providers that are starting to build up war chests for those products coming online. That was out of the new Ripple markets report. What else is this XRP used for? Well, Ripple actually will directly sell XRP OTC, so without it hitting the market, to financial institutions who want to make investments in XRP. So what we're seeing is a lot of this XRP never actually hits the open market and never puts any sell pressure on the XRP. Now, if you are drastically worried about XRP essentially from Ripple being dumped onto the market, look, that is one of the things that you can be worried about. But the more important thing to me is that the XRP token itself is never inflationary. It's actually deflationary. There was 100 billion units of XRP ever created, and that number is always decreasing. A lot of other protocols like
How
Ethereum
many
and
are there
Solana,
now, Mickle?
those protocols are infinitely inflating, and you're constantly being devalued.
Mickle, I haven't had a chance to look at it, but like, how much have they burnt already? Like,
I think it's something. I think it's in the order of magnitude of probably 100 million-ish, but I can
oh,
give
okay.
you I
No,
can give
that's
you a
fair. It's
more
still early
accurate
days.
estimate of
Sounds
that.
like it's still early days in terms of the actual utility. It's fascinating because I don't know how it's actually possible that, and then Joe is like super well read on this stuff, so I know that. So I'm a little bit confused about why I'm hearing two different stories, and it might just be. I know Joe is a little bit of a maxi, but he's not. Joe, you're not like complete. Do you own any other protocols than Bitcoin?
He's
I'm sure you do.
absolutely a maxi. Look, I love Joe, and I think Joe provides great insight.
Hang on a second. Okay, let's just talk. And first of all, to answer your question, I don't own anything other than trivial amounts, like less than $50,000 of like Solana and
Yeah.
some.
Okay.
I've been
Same
paid.
as me. Same as
Yeah,
me.
I've been
Okay.
paid in like for legal services and meme coins. Technically, I'm being fully transparent. Like I have
Yeah. Of
trace
course.
amounts of those. I don't like speculate or put any serious money in anything else really besides Bitcoin, and I have
Got
a
it.
ton
So
of
you are a
stocks. I have a
maxi.
ton
So
of
you're kind of
stocks
a
in real
maxi.
estate.
So you are
Yeah,
kind of a
I have a
maxi.
ton of stocks in real estate. I don't consider myself a maxi because a lot of people define maxi as like you're 100% Bitcoin. That's all you own. I own other investments. I own Nvidia stock. Does that mean I'm a maxi? I mean,
That's fair. That's fair.
like
Yeah.
so it's these
You're not
terms are
fucking
kind of
Michael Saylor, but yes.
yeah, these terms are kind of silly, like trying to label people. I think, you can, my bias is after doing my diligence and investigation, I can tell you with clear reasons why I think that Bitcoin as a protocol is infinitely better designed for our current environment than XRP, and why I don't think XRP really makes a whole lot of sense if you dig deep. We could have that discussion. Mickle can say you're an idiot and I disagree with you, and here's why. That's fun. I mean, that's fine. Like I respect his opinion. Anybody who comes to it with an informed opinion. What I don't respect is people that don't actually consider all of the angles and try to grok it. Because to me, like I think the biggest problem is you get into these people who just become tribalist and they just say, oh, it's all Bitcoin or it's all this or all that. And they can't even explain it. They're just listening to Michael Saylor or they're listening to my buddy Gary Cardone, and they're just buying like whatever somebody tells them. You should think through it and have this intelligent discussion because that's how we all learn. Okay. And to me, like the biggest reason why I'm biased against XRP is all of the documents we got in the actual XRP versus SEC litigation. There's been no more current crypto asset that has had more scrutiny than XRP. You had a total of 60,000 pages of documents that were tendered from Ripple Labs, some of which has been unsealed, and we can actually go through and read what they're talking about. For example, like their ODL, right? Like we know that their ODL system can work without XRP. They have it in papers that it's not required for it to be used, right? So why does the token exist? If they're admitting that it's unnecessary, is it really they just wanted to print a way to fund all their projects? I mean, that seems like it to me. I mean, they basically wanted some easy way to raise money and raise capital. And just to be quite clear, no token itself, Mickle said this earlier, this is why I actually jumped up. No token itself is a investment contract. The courts have said this repeatedly. Every token out there, it's just code, right? At its core, it's just code.
It actually makes sense.
Right? Yeah. What the Judge Torres' opinion, which is still being appealed, it may change with the new SEC, but it's still being appealed. Her opinion was basically this: that certain transactions involving tokens can be investment contracts. She said, in particular, that when Ripple raised its initial money from institutional sales, that was an investment contract. That was an unregistered securities offering, and she ordered them to have some disgorgement. Okay, that is an order of the court. Now
They had zero disgorgement. It was zero disgorgement.
they settled it, right?
It was
But she
there was no
as a matter
settlement.
of hang on a second.
Joe, you're wrong. I'm going to correct you.
No, I'm not. I'll quote the opinion. The opinion
It was zero
ordered her
disgorgement. They paid a penalty.
That's not true. There's no number in the opinion at all. You're just lying. Listen, I'm a lawyer. I know you don't understand how orders of court work, but they had a damages hearing that was set, and then the case was settled. So the judge basically said, this is an unregistered security, the way it was sold originally. Okay, the transaction itself to institutional investors was in violation of law. So let's just make it very simple for people in the back. Ripple violated the law when they sold to institutional investors. Full stop. Even Judge Torres, who said the secondary market sales are not investment contracts, the token itself is not. Ripple broke the law when they raised money. And people can say, oh, well, they didn't know what they're doing. It was ambiguous. That's bullshit. They had legal memorandum that were part of the SEC suit where they were told specifically, do not raise money in this way from lawyers. And they went and got other lawyers to tell them what was obvious to everybody in the marketplace at that point. But the point, I put all that aside, okay? Judge Torres' opinion, which is being appealed, right? I don't expect it actually reversed. I think it's very likely that Mickle's correct, that they don't actually go forward with the appeal with the new Trump administration because they're going to be more favorable to crypto. But I don't really care about that. Like the securities analysis, it's like, it's sort of irrelevant. What matters to me is, let's talk about how it's actually constituted. And, you know, people were talking earlier about this whole issue of supply, right? It's trivial, right? I think Ripple Labs has somewhere between 6% of total XRP supply. I'm not really even concerned about that. I'm concerned about this notion that you need a token to facilitate cross-border payments. And if you attack that issue, if you just focus on that issue, you will find, after a huge amount of research, that is not true. The SWIFT system moves billions. No, actually, I think it's higher. It's hundreds of billions of dollars regularly, and they don't have a token. They don't have a token. It's an antiquated old messaging system. So explain to me why
counterparty. But Joe, what about counterparty risk? And I mean, I thought the whole
Can I just take a couple things here? You can do whatever you want. Obviously you can move money right now. No one is saying you need a token to move value. The point I am trying
why
to
does
make,
XRP exist?
Oh, Joe, hold on. Because right now Ripple has a product using XRP that is growing rapidly. Like clients are using that product using XRP because it makes settlement faster and more efficient. So you can say that, oh, you don't need to have that. Yeah, absolutely, you don't need to have it. You didn't used to have to communicate via email. You could communicate via letter. There are more efficient ways to move value from point A to point B. And that's why Ripple's product is growing so quickly using XRP. Let me make another point. Joe, you are right. You can put any token in the middle. It doesn't have to be XRP. You can run ODL using Bitcoin. You could run ODL using a stablecoin. But Ripple's primary focus is to run ODL using the XRP ledger. And because of that, XRP is the premier token for ODL. So it doesn't really matter whether or not you think there are other ways to run the product. The product is growing extremely quickly with XRP.
The product is not the token. The product isn't the token. You just admitted it.
ODL runs through XRP. It's the vast majority.
And it can run with Bitcoin. And it can run with dollar stablecoin.
But it's not.
Joe,
it can run with anything.
But it's not, Joe.
Guys,
it's not.
From the outside perspective, again, I have, just like Joe was mentioning, most of, I would say like 90% of my crypto is in, 99% of the crypto is in Bitcoin. I have a few $1,000s, 99 plus, but I have a few $1,000s in others. I bought some XRP because of the regulatory stuff in the beginning I mentioned. But so I do have I guess a horse in this race, but like a really tiny baby horse. I was gonna say the thing that I'm not understanding, Joe, from your perspective, is if you just assume that XRP gets utilized, and every time it gets utilized, there are less tokens in circulation, then you would imagine that the more it gets utilized, the more value of the token there is over time. That's my understanding, Mickle. Please correct me if that's not how it works. But like, isn't it that simple? Which is, as long as
no, it's not. It's absolutely not. And here's why. Okay, and I'll keep it real brief, and Mickle can tell me how I'm wrong. But just because something is scarce, just because something is finite, okay, does not mean it necessarily goes up in value. There's plenty of examples in the collectible world where demand absolutely matters. Demand is a huge signal from the marketplace of what they want and what the preferred mechanism is. So when you look at the price of an asset, that is communicating real-time information about market participants assessing the value of something. Okay, so why is that relevant? Because I could print a finite amount of Joe token, and that does not mean it's going to pump and go, rival Bitcoin or rival XRP. So the deflationary nature of something alone is not sufficient. You have to have fundamental characteristics. Now, what I want to just be very clear about, Ripple may absolutely pump from here for the next 6 months, 12 months, even 2 years. I don't know. Okay, I'm not making a forecast on price. I don't think that's really valuable. Okay, what I look at is what is something fundamental that I think is going to have a long-term narrative sufficient to support the price. And the reason I favor Bitcoin most particularly is because Bitcoin, unlike all these other things out there, has embraced a real tether to the world, to the physical world, to the proof of work mining system. The proof of work mining system is the unique attribute of Bitcoin that none of these other tokens can compare with. I don't care about efficiency. I don't care about embracing the fact that ODL can deliver liquidity and money across the world faster than other systems. That's irrelevant for me because AWS could do it faster than ODL. If an AWS closed net system can do it 10 times faster. In fact, there are banks experimenting with AWS. In fact, some of them use AWS for transfers, like Zelle. Zelle under the hood uses AWS. So for me, like the transaction, the efficiency, all that's kind of bunk. I think it's irrelevant. What I want is a real world store of value that can be used digitally and is protected by energy. Like that is the key attribute.
And Donish, if you notice, I got on the space and I made that clear distinction. Like I knew people were going to get up here and say Bitcoin's a store of value. Like never once did I say Bitcoin wasn't a store of value. Never once did I say Bitcoin wasn't doing that. In fact, that was what I led my point with. Joe is saying all these things like, I don't want something to do this. I don't think a token should do this. That's great, but XRP is being used for that and is growing rapidly. So it's not the point I'm making that everyone needs to run through XRP and XRP is this perfect vehicle to do all these different things. The point I'm making is people are using it. The product is growing rapidly. And to be frank, it doesn't really matter what Joe thinks about whether or not it's important because it's
But
being
Mickle,
used more. And
walk me through how
It's
do you
not being
all
used
know
more.
as
It's
a
not being used more.
That's
That
the
is
question
silliness.
I'm going to get
That's
to.
so.
Joe, I agree with you with this. So, Mickle, is Ripple super transparent about when they close a new customer?
So one thing, and I did put in the nest Ripple's zero disgorgement penalty. I'm not sure where Joe got that from, but that is up in the nest right now. The next thing is no, Ripple does announce a lot of partners when partners are ready to make those announcements. So
You're by the way, you're not quoting the opinion. You're posting from MetaMan Law, who routinely mischaracterizes what the actual order says. And by the way, you're posting the remedies opinion. That's not the actual order. What I was referring to is the summary judgment order, where they found the institutional sales were in fact subject to securities analysis and that they were in unregistered investment contracts. So you're citing a
what
totally
was the
different order.
disgorgement penalty, Joe? What was the disgorgement penalty?
They settled the case. There was no penalty. That's not what we're saying. The judge ordered disgorgement in the underlying motion for some. I know you're not a lawyer, so I don't. It's like me explaining medicine to Dr. Donish. Like the original underlying order was what mattered. It said this is an unregistered securities offering. It found them in violation of the securities laws. It said that you're not supposed to do this. I don't know why this is still being debated.
You said there was a disgorgement penalty. I'm trying to figure
no,
out.
I never said that. Now
All
you're
right.
saying it. I said the case was
All right.
settled. I said there was a disgorgement order. There's two different things. She ordered disgorgement, and then they had a remedies phase where they decided what it would be, and it was zero. That's what she decided because the case settled. So I don't understand. Like when you
So
so
they
why
had
does it matter,
$0 in disgorgement. All right,
because
Donish,
as a matter of law,
that should probably tell you enough what you need to realize about.
No, but I want to understand what the
no, they didn't have
difference
$0.
between-
They okay. So let me just
They
explain.
settled,
Let me
right?
yes, they actually paid $125 million. It's not at zero. So let me just explain the process. The SEC said various transactions. Actually, they took a wider position. The SEC originally said that the token itself was a security. That was rejected by Judge Torres, which is right because that's stupid. Like it's just lines of code. That you can't have an investment contract with just lines of code. What Judge Torres said, she said that various transactions were or were not investment contracts. So first example, the first transaction was when when Ripple sold the token to institutional investors. That was an unregistered securities offering. So the other two elements of it, the secondary market sales and the payments for people to vendors and contractors, those were not. She found for very, very specific reasons, those were not in a very lengthy opinion. So what happens at that point? When the judge found that at least one of the transactions was an unregistered investment contract, what the judge said is now you have a remedies phase and you can seek disgorgement, SEC. So what did they do in the interim? They negotiated a resolution. So the SEC had won on one count. They lost on the two big counts, really, which was the key thing. That was a big embarrassment for the SEC. And during the remedies portion, they said, okay, I'm going to stamp an order that was proposed jointly by the parties in which there's zero disgorgement paid, but you had to pay $125 million penalty, which is what he just posted from MetaMan Law, incorrectly analyzing the opinion. But the point is that it's key is that was unlawful. They broke the law. and it's settled, right? But it's not to say that at the beginning they didn't break the law, and that's what Judge Torres' opinion found.
Hey, Donish, I posted something in the nest for you to take a look at. It's actually Rosie Rios. She's the former 43rd Treasurer of the United States. Her name is actually on more money in circulation than anyone else in the entire world. And I want you to just take a look at what she has to say about XRP. Because the point I want to make here is, look, there are people, right, who have this deep core belief on why Bitcoin is a hedge against the monetary system. And I hold a lot of Bitcoin. I am perfectly in line, and that is why I hold Bitcoin. That is not the point of why I got on this space to talk about XRP. And
Yeah,
this
agreed.
idea that XRP, right, doesn't have a purpose in all of these things. It's like, I'll take Joe's opinion, right? Joe doesn't think so. But there are so many smart people out there who have very deep relationships with traditional financial institutions that don't share Joe's view. So I, as an investor, look at the people who think XRP has deep utility and is useful for these things, and then listen to Joe's thesis on why it's not. And when I see how Ripple's products are growing using XRP, I see how many banking institutions they are getting access to, like Qatar National Bank using XRP. For me, I start to think, hey, maybe Joe doesn't see the full picture for why this might be important. And if we
Yeah.
disagree on that, that's perfectly fine. But
Because Joe,
nothing
I
of it
don't
has to
So
do
let
with
me
understand
let me
Bitcoin.
let
something.
me explain
I'm
why that's
sorry.
very
Hold
dangerous.
on, hold on, hold on, hold on. I want to take a second here. Joe, people are allowed to choose, any product for their company. Enterprise products are often not, don't take this the wrong way, Mickle, but they're not always the best product in the market. Often enterprise sales has to do with, relationships, understanding use cases, implementations. Like, it's not always about the most efficient, best product that needs to be out there. Clearly, I've just been Googling a little. It seems pretty obvious that there are institutions that are adopting Ripple's product. And if the more they use Ripple's product, and again, a lot of people may have been waiting on the sidelines to use it because of regulatory concerns. If those regulatory concerns go down, then there will be more adoption from financial institutions, supposedly. And
Yeah.
if there's more adoption, that then and they're burning more tokens, doesn't that automatically tell us that the demand is increasing and the supply is
No.
decreasing together? I'm just a little
No.
confused.
Okay. So let's go
You're
through
nailing
this.
it, Donish. You're nailing it.
For one. Okay. There's two flaws and I respectfully just completely disagree with both of those statements you made. You made two statements, Mickle. Number one, you made the argument, which is a fallacy logically. You can look it up. It's called appeals to authority. When you make an argument that because smart people are doing something, therefore it must be smart, that is a logical fallacy. It's basically how a lot of people get into really wrecked situations because they follow crypto influencers telling them to do something. And it's no different from TradFi, right? When people go on CNBC and they pitch a stock, right, they have a vested interest. They're on the take, they're being paid. Just because they've had a successful career doesn't mean they're right. Right. And just because they haven't had a successful career doesn't mean they're wrong. You have to actually attack the integrity of the argument and the actual point. So appeals to authority or fallacy. That's number one. Number two, the argument about companies using it is the biggest crock is because, I'll give you a specific example from my own law firm, right? We have 15 different e-discovery vendors. Sometimes the e-discovery vendors will come to us and they'll say, use my e-discovery software, which is really just junk, okay? And we will use it for a test basis for free, right? We're actually incentivized to use it. And I've had personal experiences where it's absolute garbage. And the example that's part and parcel of XRP, which we know from the SEC litigation, is they paid MoneyGram to use their ODL software, and MoneyGram said this is junk. It does not work. There's an affidavit that was sworn, submitted by the SEC.
But Joe, that's one customer.
I know, but Ripple does this routinely, right? Because they have a big bag of XRP. So they go out and they incentivize banks to run a test case with a project that never goes anywhere, never has real market share, never actually gains traction, and then they go broadcast it out to the marketplace and say, "Look, we partnered with Citigroup." Oh, really? What percentage of Citigroup's overall net transactions are flowing on ODL? Oh, it's less than 0.00001%. Well, we're still a partner, and there's widespread adoption. Therefore, go buy XRP. I mean, it's the biggest bunch of crap in the world. It's marketing.
I don't
to
think
get.
Ripple has
It's
ever
it,
put out an announcement that
it,
said go buy XRP because we're
I
working with
know,
Citigroup.
because
So
of the
so talking about
because
fallacy arguments, you
well,
just made up
they
like a whole bunch of stuff that's never happened.
it's called.
Hold on. Do we know if they paid
Absolutely, they
Citigroup
paid
to?
MoneyGram. That's a fact, and Mickle doesn't want to admit this, but go look at the SEC affidavit. I
It's
followed the
funny
case
that
very.
Which is unusual.
They
To be fair,
paid
Mickle.
MoneyGram to use ODL, and MoneyGram said the
That's
CEO
crazy.
said it was junk. And I'll post the affidavit. Give me 2 seconds, and Mickle can
Well,
tear
it's
it
just
apart.
weird to do. Like usually, companies pay you for your product. You don't pay companies to use their
Yeah, but
product.
if you
Like
want to
weird.
dump on people, you got to get partnerships, right?
no,
Like
I would love to
ever hear of affiliate codes? Ever hear of affiliate codes? Why do people have affiliate? Why do people put out trade on this platform and use my referral code? Because they have a vested interest.
So
Mickle, I'll
Donish,
let you respond. It's like interesting.
what they were doing was because it was a very early trial for the product, they were supplementing certain payments in which they paid MoneyGram to essentially, if there was some kind of low liquidity corridor, they would come in and essentially say, hey, because we're like vetting this out, this is a low liquidity corridor and it didn't save money, it was less efficient, and therefore we'll cover your loss on this. I mean, it was a partnership where they were practicing or trying to build out the flows for the product. Joe's absolutely right. Did it absolutely take off in that one example that he's now cited 7 different times? No, it wasn't a perfect use case for XRP, but it doesn't mean that since then Ripple hasn't had massive successes using XRP.
Give me one. Give me the most successful use case. I want to hear it.
SBI and Qatar National Bank right now using XRP.
Qatar National Bank. Qatar National Bank does on daily volume with ODL less than 500 grand, and they have billions of dollars of daily volume. That's a joke. That's comically bad.
Joe,
Okay, that
Joe,
less
I'm
than
not trying to
$500,000.
I'm not trying to invest in the product when it's doing billion. I'm trying to invest in this before it is. So that's what I'm not trying
But
to
I
do
mean,
it
that's
when
a
it's already
tiny
taken
enterprise
off.
contract, guys. Like that's like the world's smallest enterprise
Exactly. I
contract
mean, this is
ever.
all their stories. They'll get one contract in place, and it's a marketing gimmick, guys. It's marketing. It's because they want to have something to talk about. It's no different than all of the altcoins who say, "Oh,
Joe, it would be interesting to see if Ripple, for example, was very public about their actual revenues, about their actual partnerships, how they were structured, right? Like in this community, that would be incredible. That would be Mickle. I would go all in if they were like super public about everything.
Oh,
I'd be like, dude,
they're
let's go.
extremely public and Donish. I would be happy to send you a lot of different documentation about how the products work, who they're working with, who their partners are, partner reviews, customers using it right now. Tranglo is a great one, great use case for XRP. MoneyGram partnership, I believe that got off the ground, I believe, in 2019 or 2020. The
Oh,
idea that this
Jesus.
product hasn't
Long
grown
time
since
ago,
then
yeah.
is insane. Insane. Like their product, you can
so why
here's
didn't
the best
MoneyGram return to it? Why isn't MoneyGram using it now?"
because there's
That
they're
happens.
using
Enterprise contracts can do that
well
sometimes. I mean, like enterprise
even
buyers
funnier,
can do
Donish,
it.
what they're doing now is they're using the Stellar blockchain because Stellar wasn't in the middle of the Ripple SEC case. So it wasn't like, oh, we're running away from blockchain. They went and just
questions. I'm like, oh wow, that guy's actually been, involved in small startups into the enterprise market. First off, these financial institutions in the old legacy system, dude, they'll let you announce deals all day long, but there's literally more often than not no money behind them whatsoever. In fact, I have seen people pay large banks to deploy their software. Actually, it's not a bad strategy. If you can pay them to get in, basically you're saying, hey, I'll guarantee you to save you this much money.
And
I'll
so
pay
you're
you.
paying them to get in, but then you're getting paid on utilization. Is that
Yeah.
how in the financial
Yeah.
industry they do it?
Well,
Okay.
you just prove it out. Like, right, you go to them and go, hey, look, I'm going to save you 300 people in expenses. I will match your results. I'll pay for it. I mean, this is kind of the way I do things. I'll pay for this the solution as long as I'm meeting your metrics. We're good to go. After the investment's been made. So I don't think that's odd. I think it's creative, and it's not odd that you would lose a client. But I got to tell you, man, I see no moat there. No one has ever been able to tell me there's a moat. And in the financial industry, if I want to pay Visa 100 grand to go to a party to get a meeting, I most certainly can. So I don't see the moat. I don't see, I think like I'm a little negative on fintechs personally, because fintechs have basically saddled up to the very financial institutions that we're all complaining about. And so for XRP to plug into a bunch of failing systems, I'm not sure it's a long-term strategy.
Gary, if you don't, but to be fair, right? Like we all believe that there's a better way to do financial transactions than the current approach. And obviously, Bitcoin does not enable transactions at the rate that we need them to. Maybe you can do L2s. Again, I'm learning a lot. So still kind of speaking a little bit out of my ass, but like at the end of the day, Gary, right? We need a way to do transactions better especially cross country and the transnational transactions. Like it feels like there's got to be an easier way. The point that you're saying there's no moat in this specific way, is that the point that you're saying? I mean, the
Yeah,
network
well,
effects exist.
you made the comment. You went, "Hey, man, where's the moat?" So you can see the moat with
Who,
Bitcoin.
Gary? My question for you is like, I take your point, right? If someone wanted to recopy what Ripple's doing, try to land all the
No,
banking
no, 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 dude,
partnerships,
no, dude. I'm not even talking about copying. Maybe come up with some better new idea, because I'm just saying
but
there's no moat.
but if you think cryptocurrency, like, so if you don't think
You know
cryptocurrency
what we
payments
mean
are
by
ever,
moat, right?
wait, absolutely. If you don't think cryptocurrency payments are ever going to be valuable, right? If you think it's going to be another technology, what's that technology? If you think cryptocurrency payments are going to be important, who's
I'll bet
Ripple's
that it
biggest
won't be
competitor?
XRP.
What'd you
I'll
say?
bet you.
But why?
But
I said
why?
I'll
Why?
bet. Well, because I
Like,
think I have
what's
other.
your pushback?
Well, bro,
Like,
if you
other
let
than that,
somebody finish the sentence,
USDC. The answer is Circle and
like there are
USDC.
so many
That's their
different
biggest
hey,
competitor.
options
and
available.
But they're
Circle,
agnostic.
USDC is a stable coin that runs on a blockchain, Joe. So USDC can run
Correct.
on the
Yeah.
XRP ledger, just like Ripple has a stable coin that will be running on the
But
XRP
Mickle,
ledger.
why would it? Again, I'm getting a little bit confused about the why. Because again, you kind of threw me off because you said that MoneyGram switched to another protocol that is essentially a copy of Ripple, and now they're doing fine with that. So then it's like, okay, then why would I own Ripple?
I mean, it's just going to come down to who can land the most partnerships and who builds the deepest network effect. Like, there's competitors in any industry. It's absolutely logical to think that
Not with
there's going to be
Bitcoin.
other
Usually
people.
not with the
Not with
exact same
Bitcoin.
product.
It's not Donish is absolutely not even close to the exact same product. They're trying to do something else differently with what they're doing with the Stellar Network.
Hey, Donish, I can move right now, literally with a very ease, a great deal of ease, $50 million in USDC, with honestly like a huge companies and apparatus behind it. Circle, one of the biggest fintechs, like you have them in the space doing this right now. Why would I want the XRP token
Joe,
when I can move dollars? I mean, this is,
Circle's
you want
not a
to talk about real
blockchain.
Joe,
penetration
I
in
actually
Africa and the
agree, and I was
emergence.
going to
Not a
say that to
blockchain.
Donish. Like, I think I can move money, and I have moved money, but using it for potato chips, man. Donish, why would you use gold, right? Something that's increasing in value to buy potato chips at the same price of fiat. It makes no sense. So maybe we're trying to get Bitcoin to do too much right now, and I don't even see the market there
Exactly.
anyway.
Exactly.
But we're talking about transactions. He was
Yeah.
concerned about transactions, and if you go on the ground in emerging markets, USDC has and actually UST Tether has way more penetration
Also,
than XRP. Way more among.
also not a blockchain. You've just listed two things that are issued on blockchain, so it's completely different than what XRP is.
Yeah, I think the point,
XRP
Mickle, we
XRP
might
is
be
a native
making,
token to the
we might
XRP ledger.
we might be making the point that XRP just has a massive amount of competition, both from the new world and the
And
old
that's what
world.
I'm hearing.
And they've been
That's what I'm
stalled
hearing.
out for 4 years in litigation, dude. That kills the business.
And it's
I guess
sad,
I'm
really.
confused
It kind
how.
of is
Hold
a
on,
little
one
sad.
one thing, real quick. This the point with the stable coin and USDC, that is all fair, and stable coins had probably the best product market fit, right? What came out of blockchain, we can see this with the widespread adoption. But comparing a native token on a blockchain with an issued token like
Did the room blow up?
USDC or Tether is a difference, because one has.
No, Gary, that is
Pardon me.
Yeah,
speaking,
but
Gary.
Oh,
Sorry.
Gary's not hearing
Gary, I'm
me.
going to send you down real quick because I think you should actually hear this. Hold on. Let me just.
Okay, let's wait for Gary to.
Yeah, I'm going to bring Gary
Okay.
back up.
I got to go, guys. But thanks for
Yeah.
having me up. Good talking to you, Mickle,
Yeah,
and
good
Thanks,
good
Joe.
talk,
others.
Joe.
Take care.
I don't know if Gary is still in the room. I think he just dropped out for a second.
Yeah, so
Go
Donish,
ahead, Vet. Let's hear Vet. Let Vet finish, because I still don't understand, Vet, why you would not just use
Yeah.
USDT or USDC.
Yeah, no, you should absolutely use these tokens, right? And they exist on many, many chains, and they will try to expand to as many chains as possible. It's just in their best interest to be everywhere. But there's a huge difference between a token that is issued with a counterparty, like an issuer, in that case, Circle, and a token that is a native currency on a blockchain like XRP, BTC, Ethereum. Okay, they have just very different use cases. One has no counterparty and is essentially digital money and what digital gold people would call. And the other is a vehicle that needs to be used for payments and to be held for a brief moment and that is not volatile like USDC, USDT. So I think comparing them both as or to put them side by side would be unfair. It's like comparing BTC and USDC. You would never do that. So I would also not compare XRP with USDC.
Donish, let me give you an important point here.
Yes.
Stablecoins are not their own network. Stablecoins need to run on networks. So stablecoins would run on a network like the XRP ledger. So when Joe comes up here and says, "Oh, well, they're just going to use stablecoins," it completely ignores half of the equation of what network is
But
that
Mickle, why
stablecoin
would
going to
somebody
run on?
use? I'm still getting very confused. I'm a very simple person, right? Like I think about the world very simply, and that's like a good thing slash bad thing. It takes a lot of thinking for simple people to understand complex topics, but it's usually because most complex topics are full of shit. And why would anyone use the XRP stable coin instead of using all these other existing stable coins that are out there? And even if they do, why would I bet on just one of them instead of betting on something else that has no competition?
Wait, we're talking about RLUSD right now, right? Like the stablecoin by
Yes.
Ripple? Yes. Yeah, in that case, I would 100% mention that it's a different risk profile, right? Because you essentially have an issuer who has a very strong balance sheet with, a lot of digital assets as well. And we have seen with the DPAC that happened, with USDC, you can backstop to a certain degree some of these uncertainties. And second of all, you're absolutely right. There should be more actually stablecoin. If you have, let's say, $1 billion and you would put them into stablecoins, you don't want to put everything into USDC. You might want to diversify a little bit because again, you have counterparty risk. And if you can distribute your counterparty risk, that is an advantage for you as a holder.
Yeah, but you realize that we know that this new administration is going to have stablecoin legislation, and it's going to make all of this moot.
Donish, here's my question, Donish, right? So stablecoins, right? What network are those stablecoins going to run on? Like, what's the predominant network that these stablecoins are going to use? Because like Joe's point was that these stablecoins just exist out there and people are just doing stablecoin payments. It's like, yeah, absolutely. And stablecoins are going to get much, much bigger. But are stablecoins just like, don't exist on their own? There's no stablecoin network. Like stablecoins run on an underlying ledger. I believe the XRP ledger is going to be one of the most predominant stablecoin ledgers out there
But
because it's one
Mickle,
of the
I
most
still
fast and
don't
more.
understand why. I'm keep asking the question. Why is it going to be better than others when literally people can fork it out and use it? Because again, it
Because they don't
sounds like
because
the adoption hasn't happened yet because they've been stuck in litigation.
Because you can't just fork it out and create the liquidity. If you fork the XRP ledger right now, you would have a network with absolutely no liquidity. The XRP ledger is the number 3 blockchain based on liquidity right now, and there's a
Mm.
ton of value there to facilitate these types of transfers. So every
Yeah, that
single
makes
day,
sense.
there's new blockchains being spun up, Donish. Every single day. Do they go anywhere? Absolutely not, because there's no liquidity, no network effect, and these things have been proven to be very, very hard to replicate and build out.
That makes
And to add
sense.
on top of this, real quick, is also the reputation, right? It's essentially after Bitcoin, the other chain that is running for over 4,300 days, and reputation is very important, right? It gives you safety. Okay, this chain has been around, it has seen everything, and is still processing transactions as every 3-4 seconds. So for someone who tries to see, okay, where can I utilize or build my business against, it's a good option. It's a very, very good option. I'm not saying it's the only option because, as you said, there are a lot of competition. There's a lot of other chains out there, but we are seeing who has the most sticky use case here. And I think we are right now in a crypto market that is very, very complicated. There, the things thrown around gets very heated, and there is a desire for simplicity. And I think the XRP ledger is one of the most simplest blockchain out there that does its job with payments very, very simple and straightforward. And that suggests you also some sort of credibility and safety. You are not afraid of it. It does what it does, and that's all it does.
Yeah, the XRP ledger, Don, just so you know, has virtually almost zero downtime. In the very, very early days, in 2013ish, the XRP was the second cryptocurrency ever created. People will point to that. But since then, there's been almost no downtime. Solana goes down like every other week. So in terms of consistency, reliability, the XRP ledger is essentially one of the best out there, right next to Bitcoin. So when a financial institution, right, is going on to onboard one of these technologies, are they going to pick a technology that is going down every other week and there's outages and all these massive issues? Or are they going to pick something that's been up and running for the past 11 years with almost no issues? When you compound that with the fact that Ripple is building these deep connections with all these large financial institutions. Ripple owns the custody for all these large financial institutions. And you have XRP, one of the top digital assets throughout the entire Ripple SEC case, remaining one of the most liquid blockchains out there. When we talk about no moat, and Gary was talking about that, these are all massive moats. I can't create a blockchain tomorrow that is suddenly going to have hundreds of billions of dollars of liquidity on it. I can't get into the room with all these large financial institutions and have people like Rosie Rios talking about XRP being important to moving money all around the world. Those are not things that happen overnight. These take long reputations to develop, takes years of uptime to prove the blockchain, and that's why XRP is so uniquely positioned in comparison to me spinning up a new network tomorrow and saying, let's just use this thing.
Thoughts?
Hey, Mickle, yeah, just a quick question. So if Joe is saying that the Bank of Qatar was doing like 500,000, what good is having, tens of billions of liquidity if these contracts are, 500,000, a million, 5 million?
First of all, that partnership in terms of that relationship was spun up. I think they got the regulatory approval for it less than a month ago or 2 months ago. I am yet to see a single number that Joe is citing on that. I am someone who monitors this ecosystem very closely, and I'm not sure if Joe has actual numbers on that. Not saying Joe is making anything up. He also referred to Ripple's product by a name that hasn't been Ripple's product name for over 6 years now, and most of his evidence comes from a partnership in 2018. So, not trying to disprove Joe's credibility. I think Joe's incredibly smart, but I'm not sure Joe really has any numbers on that Qatar National Bank partnership. It went live maybe a month ago, and everything Joe cited in the rest of these conversations has been information from over 6 years ago.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I really respect Joe. I've always
Oh, me
respected him,
too.
but
When it comes
but
to, I absolutely as well. So I don't want that to be mistaken here. I
yeah, no
absolutely
worries, no worries.
respect him a lot.
So, but I mean, if I heard your comments about Solana and the downtime, which I think are valid, but I mean, just looking at coin market cap, like, I mean, what there's a lot of coins that settle payments way quicker than Swift or ACH, domestic transfers here. I mean, it's crazy that we live in 2024 and it takes 5 business days for me to send a couple $1,000 to a different account, right? Like I agree that there's definitely got to be a solution to modernizing the system, but there's a lot of coins here with like some pretty serious liquidity. So like what makes XRP better than Tron or Avalanche or right?
Here,
Like that's kind of my question.
Absolutely, and it's a great question, and I will go through a list in a minute, and I'm pulling it up. But what I want you to do is take a look at the financial institutions and banks Ripple is working with, and I want you to then go search all those other projects and see what financial institutions those projects are working with. And what you'll notice is Ripple has this massive list of banks and financial institutions they have already built out partnerships and network effects with, where all these other blockchains are entirely focused on retail ecosystem oriented products. So it's just a completely different market they're going after. What Ripple is doing is building out relationships with these large financial institutions, building them centralized software that these financial institutions can ultimately lever to use cryptocurrency payments. If you don't think cryptocurrency payments are ever going to be anything in the future and that there's going to be a technology that's better, great. Completely different conversation. But if you are trying to look at the difference in strategy behind what Ripple is trying to do with the XRP ledger versus everything else out there, there is no one even close to the amount of financial institutions Ripple is already working with.
You know, it's fascinating because having built a company with, thousands and thousands of users that came from enterprise, I've got to say there is something, first there's a good saying, first time founders focus on product, second time founders focus on distribution. And I think that there is some reality to what Mickle is saying, which is if they figured out go to market and they figured out how to build these partnerships and how to how to close them, launch them, implement them and grow them, guys, like that is a huge moat. And if people that have not done enterprise sales, they don't know how challenging that is.
Hey, Donish, can I add a third
Gary, I was going to get your thoughts on that.
beautiful third category? First time founders,
Oh, I
second
can't
time
hear Gary.
founders.
Can other people hear Gary?
Can you guys hear me? Nobody can hear me?
Yeah, no, Gary, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, I think third time founders, in fact, the first and second time founders, what they share in common is all of them at some point realized income was very, very important, small or big. My question to Mickle, what is the income that XRP generated this year since they're public and last year? What's their net income?
Ripple, the company, or
Man, wrap it all up together. XRP doesn't generate income, I don't think. So, yeah, what did Ripple make? And while you're at it, what's their burn rate?
so Ripple's profitable. I know that. I know they fought the Ripple SEC case, spent 140 million on that. I know they have $1 billion on their balance sheet. And last time I believe I checked, the revenue was anywhere in the order of magnitude between 200 and 500 million dollars a year. And just to be completely frank with you, they're a private company at the moment, and those numbers aren't easily available. So I think a lot of it's estimates, but that's the best I can give you on how well Ripple is capitalized. They have close to now 50 billion in XRP. I know they have over $1 billion in cash, and I know they're printing probably 400 to 500 million dollars a year.
Is their biggest asset on their balance sheet their own tokens? It sounds like that, right?
It's a little confusing here, Gary. And
Well, I
if
mean, just
It's not really
eyeball
their
it
own
though.
token,
The
too. But
vast
yeah.
majority of their asset value is in their token, especially as it's tripled in the last 30 days, right?
I'm good. There's a little nuance to that. I don't want to get into the weeds of this, but for lack of a better way of getting into this, I'm just going to say yes.
You're gonna what?
I'm just going to say yes.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
have it
yeah.
cryptographically locked
So,
where they get it
yeah, no,
distributed
no,
to them
I
over
don't
time.
think the how
But two things before we go,
where I was headed
Gary,
with that
real
for
quick.
Donish, because he and I have had some other conversations. See, Donish, I start comparing this to MicroStrategy immediately, and I think that's what MicroStrategy's opened up is all these other tokens that are built on the 20, 2025, 26, 28, 29, whenever. Hopefully, all this volume shows up and all these partnerships blow up. But I look at MicroStrategy and go, they're making income, revenue right now. Well, most certainly revenue. And they have a moat.
But they're not creating any products. Are they creating any
I
services
think
on
I think
Bitcoin?
if you build the case that XRP is building services and products to move engineer financial
They do.
movements, I would suggest that MicroStrategy is absolutely engineering financial movements. I mean, talk about a moat.
I don't think Gary can hear me. I think I have to drop though. So let me drop.
So Gary, I just think what we're talking about is two completely different things. And It's not like I
I
have anything
agree. I
against
agree.
micro.
One's very, very
I
public.
I don't have anything against MicroStrategy, right,
Yeah.
Gary? Like I'm a fan of everything they're doing. I think I guess my confusion is like what you saw with Joe is up here. There's this weird like super adverse and like violent attack against Ripple and XRP. I'm a Bitcoin guy, right?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. I'm just saying, hey, when you look at the metrics of what's happening here, when you look at the banking institutions Ripple is integrating with, when you look at the growth of
Yeah.
the product,
It all
when you look
sounds
at Ripple beating.
it sounds awesome, but in fairness, their chart has sucked up until recently. I mean, it's just, you know,
and
like
it's
I
and
don't
it's
think you got to get personal about it. People get really personal about their picks here. I'm just trying to
oh,
make the
absolutely.
best decision for the money I'm having, putting to work, and we have a big community of people that we can debate with, and
But
I've yet to be
Gary, just a
convinced
quick question
on.
for you because I'm curious.
Yeah.
XRP, and I know a lot of things have been taking off, but XRP in 2024 has outperformed Bitcoin. Now, a lot of things have outperformed XRP, and Bitcoin, everything's pumping. But if XRP continued to perform, and this cloud of this case was off XRP, and it continued to perform and go up, and it continued to see Ripple landing partnerships, and there was people using XRP, would that change your opinion? Would you start to look at this and say, wait, they are landing
Well,
partnerships?
Mickle,
Yeah, go
Mickle,
ahead.
if a company's very successful, of course I'm going to start looking at it. I missed something. I missed something on MicroStrategy. Now I understand very clearly what they're doing. And I come into these rooms to listen to all these other projects because I find it fascinating. But I'll tell you, the more people talk about their other projects, the more I love Bitcoin. And the more I look at MicroStrategy as, wow, this is a super token with ultra public transparency that I'm going to get from Ripple,
And
most certainly,
And
for at
Don,
least
I
a
just want to
year.
give you this real quick. Here's a couple banks already working using Ripple's centralized software: Bank of America, Santander, SBC, Standard Charter, PNC, Siam Commercial Bank, Qatar National Bank. There's a list of close to 500 financial institutions using Ripple's centralized software. Look, am I saying that tomorrow they are going to flip a switch and start using XRP? No. But Joe's comment is that this is all a scam. My understanding is that a company that's doing hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, who's beaten the SEC in court, who has launched successful product after successful product, likely has a better grasp of how valuable these payments can be using XRP than Joe, who is citing outdated court cases from 2018. Massive respect for Joe, but I can look at the evidence myself and see that they are landing these partnerships for a reason. These big banks are not using Ripple's centralized software because Ripple is running some Ponzi scheme with XRP. Ripple did not blow the SEC out of the water in court because they're running some Ponzi scheme with XRP. There is deep utility to being able to move money over cryptocurrency networks. And right now, as we stand, Ripple is the leader in being able to integrate these solutions.
Mickle's got the scoop on the blockchain beat. News so fresh it can stay in the street. Utility rising, markets taking flight. Investors flocking to the bull market light. Shorts are buzzing, prices climbing high. Hold your assets, don't let them fly by. Crypto neutral needs Mickle's game. Guiding through the maze, setting wallets aflame. Reporting loud with the fervor so electric. Mickle's here to help you stay eclectic. Position yourself in the digital flow. Bull market pounding, let your profits grow. Decentralized finance, the future's here. Reading trends with no hint of fear. Smart contracts, changing the cash. Mickle's insight makes your portfolio flash. Crypto bites and market sites, trading on the edge with morning lights. Wallets stacking, futures mapping, and Mickle we trust while others are napping. Reporting loud with the fervor so electric. Mickle's here to help you stay eclectic. Position yourself in the digital flow. Bull market down and let your profits grow. trust while others are napping. Reported loud with the fervor so electric. Mickle's here to help you stay eclectic. Position yourself in the digital flow.